You're listening to Inclusive AF with Jackie Clayton and Katie Van Horn.
All right. Welcome to the Inclusive AF podcast. This is Katie Van Horn.
And I'm Jackie Clayton. And I'm excited because we have a special guest with us.
Yeah.
Goolie.
Hello. How are y'all?
We're great. By the way, last week, I have to tell Katie. So someone said, I have to tell y'all about your podcast. And I was like, what? They were like, well, it's kind of crazy that you change your background all the time. And I was like, oh yeah, you can listen to Apple Podcasts. And I was like, they said, oh, y'all, I thought you were just on YouTube. So I was horrified. So they've watched every episode literally on YouTube to the point where I almost want to take it down.
Yeah, it's like they're paying attention to how we look. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and some days that's not a good idea at all for either of us.
Yeah.
The last posting I looked like warmed death. Only because of the two jackets.
I was like, you got Texas was frozen. It kind of was like you didn't really have an option. You were like layered up, trying to just keep warm. It's not okay. Not okay.
Yeah, 1 degree.
Yeah. Goolie, thank you so much for joining us. We like to start off the podcast by learning a little bit about you and your identity. So whatever you're comfortable sharing, we'd love to hear.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, my name is Goolie Alvarez. Just gonna put that out there. My name is Goolie. So that I named myself when I was a toddler, and my mom let me keep it. It was just a word that I kept on saying, and my family was like, I think that's just gonna be his name. He just won't stop saying it, and he keeps on. And I learned how to write it down first, and I kept on writing it down everywhere too. So Goolie kind of became what my identity was, and it stopped being about being boy or girl or it was just being kind of open to all forms of expression, because I realized that just being Goolie was fun, because I felt kind of like a fun character in a lot of people's lives, and I wanted to kind of just express myself however I wanted. So I realized that the way I kind of identify myself is I'm male presenting, of course, but I'm very femme, and I love femininity, and I think it's glorious. And I think that me being a Mexican person, femininity, especially from Mother Mary, has it's just in our blood to you know what I mean, to adore it. So I just love I love all forms of femininity, and I respect all forms of masculinity. So I would say that the way I identify right now, I would say that I am just as Goolie as I can be, and trying to get more and more Goolie day by day. And I think y'all probably are the same way. Yeah.
I love that. You're going to start a cult, and everyone will be like, Goolie. I'm Goolie.
I'm also Goolie. Yeah.
We need to start that. We need to start that merch. I am Goolie.
Cut his mic. Yeah.
Well, I've been blessed with being able to kind of follow your journey, I guess, the last 4 or 5 years. And I always love watching people grow within their career. I think that's part of why I got in HR and in recruiting, but growing your career, but also grow it as a person. And I always associated you with kind of the fashion stuff, and always just way cooler than me. Because it's I want to know what's going. And I remember early when Hannah was actually I'm going to go to New York, and I'm going to live with Goolie, and we're going to live the life. And I'm like, okay, what's a Goolie? And
what's a Goolie?
No.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about kind of your journey, your creative journey, and how that kind of have taken you in spots.
Absolutely. Okay. So I grew up in a very creative house. My mom, she's always been a teacher to very young children. So it was more of a caretaker, and her job was basically to entertain and to kind of get the kids to play. You know what I mean? So most of my life was about play, that form of kind of child growth, and how to kind of manifest that into something positive. So I started drawing at a very, very young age, and drawing went into acting somehow, then acting and dancing and singing got into just wanting to wear better clothes, and then it became a weird collecting thing for me. And then I got really excited about fashion, so much that it's all I can really think about. And then at that time, I was like a senior in high school, and I got my first retail job at a dress store, a very well-known dress store in the Waco, Texas area. And if anyone knows me, y'all know where it was, and everyone loves it. Y'all know it. It's great, good time.
right.
Yeah, it's great, good time. No shade, y'all know it's a great good time. And so I spent a lot of time there, just basically, it was it would be like 20 girls would walk in a day, and my job would be to just help them pick out the dress that they would wear to prom, or to wear to a pageant, or we even had like a quinceañera section in the back. So most of my career formed just from dressing people up and realizing how much I liked it and realizing how much I wanted to continue to do it. So after that, I got I left senior year of high school, college, and I moved to New York in the August that followed, or the September that followed. So it was very quick. I took a full gap year, and I got my first like super high-end retail job, or not super high-end retail, kind of just super in the high-end retail job sector of like NoHo. So it wasn't necessarily like super high-end, but it was nice to be around those kind of people to kind of see what the industry was like. And while I was there, it was cool because it was one of the first like gender-free clothing companies in New York City. So it was nice. I kind of got to, like talk about gender expression with people every day and dress them up. But after that, I realized that I wanted to be more behind the scenes and actually like make the decisions about what people wore for everyone. And I applied to a lot of art schools, but right now I am at Savannah College of Art and Design, and I am studying fashion design, and it's my first year. So we're seeing how this goes, but I'm still creating like every day, trying to keep the ball rolling, and that's where we're at right now.
But I just love that. But let's back up to
Of course,
Waco, Texas.
Waco.
We have a whole family legacy right here in the hub of Waco,
Mhm.
Texas. And then you went to New York City. Like you could not
Yes.
have gotten, it flipped, like they say,
Yes.
slipped upside down, like
Yeah.
Will Smith. What was
Ta-da!
that like?
It was a crazy immediate switch that was nothing like where I grew up. And the people are nothing like Texas people. And that's again, nothing against New York people, nothing against Texas people, but they are very different kinds of people in the way that they interact with each other, and in the way that we command space, and the way that we talk to each other. So it was at first a little bit frustrating because I'm a super extroverted person, and I am so happy to talk to someone. I'm so happy to open a door. I'm so happy to kind of see how someone's day is going in New York. I'm not sure if that's, I don't know. I don't
Katie's
know.
nodding no, shaking
No.
her head no.
Yeah, like
No.
New York, it's just like, there wasn't like,
Mind your business. Don't talk to me. I won't talk to you. Yeah.
yeah, like I know like how I'm natured, and I don't think that New York was necessarily like a good place for me to feel comfortable necessarily, because it's like I felt a little like, well, no, is anyone friends with me? Just because like I was, you know what I mean? I wasn't like, I wasn't holding a mic and just like saying jokes the whole time. And that's what I kind of grew up in, because like Waco, Texas, it's easy to be it's easy to be a more entertaining person, but I think it was very, very, a lot more competitive in New York. But that kind of whipped me into shape to kind of go into art school, I would say now.
Well,
So
go ahead.
what do you want to be when you grow up? I haven't decided myself,
about to
so
say, I
I'm just
think
taking
Yeah.
ideas from folks.
yeah, of course. Okay, so will always and forever be an entertainer. It's one of my favorite things to do, besides dressing up and dressing other people up. So somehow I want to be able to do all those things at the same time, by making clothes, performing still. I want to sell my clothes still. I love doing all those things. I just like creating things, and I like creating my own world. And I kind of want the Goolie brand to kind of seep into everyone's everyone's cola. You know what I mean? So I wanna see how that goes. I just like brand building. That's my favorite
Mhm.
thing. So I just want to see how this goes in like another year, how this goes another 2 years. And clothes are my favorite thing in the world. So no matter what I do, it always circulates back to just like playing dress up. So that's why I'm studying fashion design right now, because I want to learn the um kind of like the background information. I mean, going to a thrift store and getting like the fun stuff is great, but it's nice to be able to draft your own things and to actually like create things that people could wear, that people could say like, this, I have something that Goolie Alvarez made on my body. And that's something that I've always wanted, and that's something that I'm trying to seek out right now. So
Well,
it's a
how would you
very
do it
long way to
different?
put that. Yeah,
I'm
I don't.
like, because it's so many. There's a one of the things that I think is interesting as we are get more inclusive AF, and we bring people
Of
kind of
course.
into this cloud of understanding. A lot of it is understanding people and sharing people's stories so we can have a baseline understanding so that they can communicate with other people, right? It's
Hmm.
like a way of bringing people together, and we always surround ourselves with people and talk about the communication aspect. It always seems to go back to communication, but then you're going to be communicating through your actual, like your art and your
Hmm.
clothing. What kind of things would you, when you think about like the Goolie brand, what kind of things do you want to say? What do you want people like when, what would we be able to look at and say, you know what? I think that's Goolie Alvarez.
Right. So I'm a like a kind of a Mesoamerican, like Tejano person. So I'm Texan American, basically, which means that my ancestors are literally from where Texas is, but when it was Mexico. And I think that there's a lot more people out there who have these like these backgrounds that they may not know a lot about, but they are still a person of color. And you know what I mean? So that it's like these people don't know a lot about their like Mesoamerican backgrounds. But we're people of color, so we're going through things that I wish that I could know more about. You know what I mean? So I think with my art, I want to be able to speak to other, other people with indigenous backgrounds and Mexican backgrounds, or just other people who understand kind of the Texas upbringing or the just American upbringing, and who have adapted perfectly. I want to dress for those kind of people. I want to make clothes for people who were able to realize the American situation, realize that they were persecuted against, that there was some drama, but were excited to proceed and to thrive in what we now know as America. And I'm trying to make clothes for people to change America in. And I would say that's what I'm trying to do right now. Is just drafting things that inspire people enough to want to do something to fix whatever's happening right now. And I think sketching every day is kind of a good start to that. But but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. Like that's where I think the change needs to start. Is just who are we dressing for? Like who are we making the clothes for? Like are we thinking about the people? I don't think so. So that's about
Triggered.
it. Yeah.
Just kind of like,
Yeah.
oh my God,
It's
why am I
people.
wearing this? I want to
It's
go change
people.
clothes. I'm very conscious.
Yeah, me too.
It's
Um,
right.
I think a lot
I've never
about
thought
it.
about that before.
Yeah, because it's just like I know it's patterns and it's fabric, but it's like people get really excited about what they wear every day, and it's a big part of what they do, and it's a big part of who they are. And if they don't see someone who looks like them or someone who dresses like them shown in media, I know everyone should be themselves, and I know everyone should be able to represent themselves however. But media is a good way to experiment with your imagination without actually wearing clothes. So for someone to experiment with their imagination in media that looks like you, that's a good sign. I'd say as like as someone with very indigenous features, who's Mexican American in Central Texas, I'd say that like I wasn't able to see anyone with that kind of experience. And I think if I would have been able to, I wouldn't have been so um, kind of negative about the situation because I kind of felt like there was no other people like me out there to talk to about my past or to talk to about my my ancient history that I still think needs to be talked about. But I think of course that's all changed now because of things like inclusive AF or people who make efforts to diversify our own culture. So I think that's happening, but I want to be a part of that change. And I think y'all know exactly what like just every day you're just like, I just want to be a part of this and I don't know what to do it. Somehow dressing up has gotten into that.
That's awesome. I think, so just this past week, you may have seen, so they, Deb Holland had her swearing in ceremony and wore for the Department of the Interior. So she wore her indigenous skirts that with the ribbons and all that stuff. And it was like, to your point, being able to like see that and then have stories written about it of why did she wear that? What does the skirt mean? What do the ribbons mean in the skirt? All of those pieces. I think it's just so huge to help people understand why does this matter? That representation piece. Why does it matter that we know these stories and learn this history and actually, get better at telling stories through our clothes, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think with my clothes, I like to represent, my own culture in a way that I think people would be like, well, you're just dressing like a Waco Texan. And I'm like, of course. I mean, that's where all my family's from. You know what I mean? It's like, that's where all my influences have come from. I'm wearing like things that all probably came from a Caritas in Waco, Texas. But I can say that like I'm confident with what I'm wearing and I'm excited about it. And I try to use like all those like referential things to form what I'm wearing or to kind of help people choose what they're wearing. What's the most powerful thing about your culture, about your history, about your body that you love so much, and how do you want to display that? I think that's a good thing to do when you're trying to pick what to wear every morning. Like, what's your favorite thing about yourself, and how can you display it with the t-shirt? So like that.
I love that. And I think speaking back, it's like, this is America. Like when you think about the swearing in ceremony, it's like, this is America. But I think
she loved that. She loved that about herself. She loves her culture.
Yes.
Yeah. Like,
and it's important.
It's important to just I think it's important to like loudly love to just loudly express how much you love your culture. Like, why not? You know what I mean? Like, it's so important. Yeah, I agree.
I think it's important too, when you think about, being indigenous to this area, but people still have a different idea of what Texas means, and being able to express my culture and someone saying, what is that? And you're like, this is Texas.
Yeah. You're like, it's weird because we're Texan and my grandpa has a country accent, but he speaks Spanish. So you know what I mean? It's like,
right.
It's so good. It's so confusing to talk to people about. So like her, I want to one day be able to like loudly express how much I love that part of my Tejano culture. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of the word for it. Like Tejano is like the kind of like the intersection between like they kind of always have been here and they're like, I don't know. I'm very proud to call myself Tejano because I think Texas has taken a lot of work. You know what I mean? And a lot of work, and then a lot of background work that I think a lot of proud Mexican people have just been, you know what I mean, just been doing. And I'm like, if you've ever been in Texas, you know how strong the Mexican community is. So I'm just so glad to be a part of that, and I can't wait to loudly represent that as well. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Yeah.
There is so much to be able to express, but then to be able to express it loudly as a part of yourself. I think it's hard, but now that you've spoken and I've never thought about it, there is an element of somebody else's idea of what fashion is. Like we are always talking about when people get hired, somebody will say, oh, dress professionally. And the question that I think Katie and I always raise is, what does that mean? What is fashion? What is professional? And what is a caricature of yourself versus what's really you? And I've seen that. Have you noticed that? Like, if you look at like the iconic brands or what different things that are iconic brands, is there anybody that you think represents like any authenticness of our culture, even if we're talking about the American, even if we're talking about it being a mess, or Tejano culture or any other indigenous culture? Is there a brand that you think that stands out, or a designer that stands out in that way?
I am not exactly sure what the background of this brand is necessarily, but I would say that like Gypsy Sport is a very underground, gender-free clothing brand. Not a very underground, not because they're kind of everywhere. We just don't know that it's Gypsy Sport, you know. It's a clothing brand that's gender-free, and this designer was originally a drafter and a pattern maker for Balenciaga, but just got a bunch of design models from Instagram and just like Snapchat, just people that he thought was cute. And then he asked a bunch of people, different races, different body types, different ages, just to come walk. He just picked a bunch of people. And I've never seen a more like authentic presentation of what fashion can and should be, which is just exploring what you love about yourself through the clothes that you're wearing. And they've also been able to explore different cultures in that, and to explore the club scene in New York City, which is a culture in itself. So I'd say that everyone should definitely go on Instagram and type in the words Gypsy Sport. It's going to be, if you're from Waco, just take a breather. It's fine. You're going to be all right. Just keep on looking. And then keep on looking, and it's going to be great.
Or from Phoenix. I'm pretty sure they're going to have to take a breather too.
Yeah. They have to take a little breather too. It's going to be all right. Just keep on scrolling. It's going to be cool.
I don't think we knew how our states would be represented when we started the podcast.
Yeah, but I feel like we keep on bringing it up. But like, oh yeah, it really changes things.
It does.
Yeah.
I think I just pulled up some of the images of Gypsy Sport, and the images from their runway shows, to your point, it's just very diverse body types, diverse, people, just visually diverse. And that is really cool, because it is that, how do we represent this brand, and how do we represent, to your point, like feel good about what you're in, and feel that, that power that you get when you're like, God, I feel good in the clothes I'm in. I would love to switch gears a little bit and talk about appropriation. So I am a white woman, in case you didn't know. Yeah. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on so you have this amazing brand, and you're building based off the Tejano culture that you are from. So what happens if a white woman's like, God, I want all of your clothes. They're amazing. Other than yes, cha-ching, cha-ching. What else would you think?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. The way I would put it is that as a designer, the stuff that I would make it referential enough. This is just me. This isn't every designer has. This is for me. I have thought about this a lot as well. And I think that for me, the stuff that I make should be referential enough to my culture, but should be able to maybe cater to different cultures when it comes to colors or texture and things that can be fun. So I think maybe it may be a little bit, and this is kind of just a totally different take, and I've never heard it, but this is maybe a little bit of my job as a Tejano person who's designing clothes for a lot of people, to figure out how to make Tejano culture something that is available to mass media, rather than and I think that Waco, Texas is a way of that. Like Waco, Texas is so Tejano, but you know what I mean? But it's such a diverse place. So I think there's definitely a way to communicate and to respect a culture and still wear the clothes. And I think as a designer, we need to be able to not, like for me, I don't know what the regalia of my ancestors were. So I shouldn't do some bad research and create a garment made from fake regalia that is not accurate. And I shouldn't sell that to a mass group of people, because that's at that point, that's on me, because I sold this brand that's on the second person by now.
God?
God?
It's me, Margaret.
God? Yeah, it's me, Margaret. But yeah, I would say if I want people to celebrate my culture, I think maybe it's a little bit my job to not give people the opportunity to diminish it just by buying my clothes because I'm just an artist and you're just buying my clothes because you thought they were pretty. So I should be able to make art that is so accurately Tejano and so accurately, but I think that with my brand, at least, I want to be able to make it accessible to everyone in kind of a Y2K format or kind of a, you know, futuristic design format that all cultures are kind of, I don't know. I'm a brown person, but I have so many relationships with white people that aren't disrespectful, but they respect my culture and are able to talk to me about it every day. So I think this is absolutely doable. I think that's the problem, is that people do not think it's doable, so the work isn't happening, and that people are dismissing artists before they're able to release art that actually changes the world. People need to stop asking for permission about their art. And you know what I mean? I think that's kind of what I'm feeling right now is like,
yes.
yeah.
I've never Goo. I call Goolie Goo.
We're just giving him all kinds of names today.
No,
it's good.
That's the thing. Goo Bear.
I always call him
Goo
Goo from the other room. I think that's
Guliano. Yeah.
Never thought about that, but that is so right. Like, I think some of the artists that have been there's the one side of an artist that's been attacked for appropriation who didn't have it well thought out and only did
like
inch deep,
not even by someone maybe of the culture or of the ethnicity. So
That's
it's like, so as me, as someone who actually is a Tejano person, if I was going to create something that I wanted to like celebrate my culture with, I would love to find a way to make it wearable, you know, by white people or, you know, by African American people. I just think that that's a challenge that I'm really ready to like take on, because there's so much stuff about the stuff that I wear that I love so much that come from my mom, like my big jewelry, my big turquoise jewelry that my mom loves. And, you know, that's a very like, that's a very Mexican and a very Texan thing, but that's for everyone. I mean, this is stones, these are silver. So I think there's ways to integrate your culture into a way to make it, you know, I don't know, a slight wink rather than straight regalia, to where someone isn't given the opportunity to offend. Because I mean, I don't want someone to offend me by wearing my clothes. I just don't want someone to get, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be offended. So I don't want to give someone that opportunity. I just want to make great clothes that embody what the Goolie brand is. And a lot of that Goolie brand is how Tejano I am. So yeah.
Goolie for everyone.
Yeah, Goolie for everyone.
Goolie for all. Goolie for president.
I just never thought about it. Like, whose fault is it when you see somebody wearing something and then everybody's like appropriation, and it's like, who sold that shirt? Like, let's just go back. Is it you know, Stephanie's fault? Because
that's not the world's shirt.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that belonged to that culture. So it's not, you know what I mean? It's like, this is someone that wants to buy this because I sold it to everyone. Obviously, like, that's the thing that's weird about like mass selling, and it's like catering someone to everyone, because at the end of the day, like, can we do that? You know what I mean? Can we do that? Well, that's such a hard question, but I think that it's, I don't know, because I just see it done so much, where designers keep on making things that are just are wrong when it comes to, you know, trying to embody a culture, because we're not giving any reference to who are making these garments or who had this idea, or who. I think that's another thing that's very important. Where's the context for these things? Because, you know what I mean? This could have been like if a Tejano person was at Balenciaga and created something, and someone thought it was offensive, I feel like that Tejano person like didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but created something that wasn't for everyone, but that was for just the Tejano person and the Tejano person's culture. Do you know what I mean? So I think that maybe like whenever I create clothes, not all my clothes are like, if I make a shirt that says, "Hi, I'm proud and Tejano," like, I'm like, if I might have to put on the tag like, "Hey, white people, I'd like you not to buy this." Do you know what I mean? Like, that's nothing.
Well, it's like
no.
I mean, so
like,
I think, do you know the brand Mess in a Bottle?
No.
So she is a Black woman who
Right,
created
right.
this t-shirt line, and she actually just got into Target, which is huge and awesome and
Awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
But she has some of the shirts. It's like, melanin, and I'm not going to wear a
Yeah.
melanin shirt. Like,
That's
Yeah,
right.
so it's just like stuff like that. It's like,
yeah. But to your point, I think you've seen some big brands. I mean, like big brands that have done some stuff that you're like, what in the world are you doing? I think
Dior back in the day, and like the 90s, man, was a big,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
well,
The
they
90s was just a very weird time.
Well, it was the after
Were you
effects.
even alive, Goolie, in the 90s? Like,
From
come
what
on
I've
now. Come on
From
now.
what I've heard,
He's Googled it.
90s.
But I think, and even just on the runways, I think you have seen stuff. Victoria's Secret got in trouble a few years ago because they did a whole like Asian theme thing, and it was like the dragons that they do, and that's like how they decorated the models, which is just weird in and of itself.
Yeah.
But like it's that type of stuff that you also are like, why? Who was behind that? I thought that
Like,
was a
yeah,
good idea.
That's what I'm saying. Like, who's making these choices? And it's sad that like some strong Asian women couldn't come out in like accurate regalia. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't like, that's what like there should be people that have these ideas, who get inspired, who seek out the references from the people whose culture it actually is, and who head over those ideas, because I think that's the case. Like, these are people coming up with ideas. They're like, oh, that'll be cool. I'm a person who, this isn't my culture, but I'm just going to create it right now.
Right. No,
Like,
and
you
I
know
think
what I
that's
mean?
yes.
I think,
and I think that's
it seems like that's what's happening. It seems like someone's just not thinking at all.
right. Well, and that's, I mean, and we've seen those too, where, I mean, was it Gucci? I don't want to name a label if it wasn't the right one, but that did the,
They're not a sponsor. It's okay. You're not.
yeah,
A sponsor.
I
Yeah,
was
it's
saying,
okay.
I'm trying to remember
They can
who
bid
it
more.
was, but it was like, they did like monkey socks, and it was like,
Yeah. It was
what
like
in
not
the
a,
world?
yeah, like we all know what that represents.
The
Right.
blackface.
Yeah.
Yes, it was,
when
yeah, the
everyone's just
blackface.
like,
Yeah,
Yes.
we all know what that like the colors and the,
That's
it's
right.
just,
But they always say like, oh, well, they need, to your point, like you need to have representation and who's around the table, like making these decisions. But it's also at some point you're like, how dumb are you?
Yeah, but
for
like,
reals,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
they need 8-year-olds that aren't afraid to say like, is this supposed to be a black person? Like, would have just said it straight up right in the meeting.
Yeah,
Not,
like, yeah, that's the thing.
you
That's
know.
not good. It was like a cartoon. It wasn't okay. And it's, I don't know how these choices are being made. So I love that you asked that, Katie, because it's like, it was kind of an easier question to answer, as in like, oh, I think I would just like not make something necessarily that, you know what I mean? I think I would make something that was for everyone, and I wouldn't try to sell white people something that was for a different culture. You know what I mean? Because it's just, I mean, it's not like their thing. It's just not for them, because white people and their families have their own thing. Like, this is my family's thing. It's just that kind of, that's just how I see it. Yeah.
I think people need to know it's beyond just some things, like you were talking about regalia specifically, or some things have a history that go along with it.
Like,
that's like that's not cool, like you can't just make that up and turn it into something else. And I think we have just based on the whole history of what happened to the country that was already here. And it's like, okay, that's mine. That's mine. I'm taking it.
Yeah. So it just feels like, I don't know. It seems like those like colonist attitudes are being reclaimed by shutting off brown voices when they're creating. And you know what I mean? That's what I'm seeing now as well. Because a lot of these creators, it's like again, who's at the table? And who are we making clothes for? You know what I mean? I think that's like so important. And what are the experiences of these people? Like, who are these people? Like, I don't think that sellers maybe know enough about the people that they're selling to, or even care enough to know. And that's kind of what I'm most excited about. I mean, I see people every day that I'm like, I'm so excited to like make something for you, because I'm excited for you to feel powerful and for you to be able to do something with your day because of it. And I feel like design isn't like that anymore. Design is release. And I think design should be more like, fashion design should be more like music, where like I'm gonna take a couple years off and see what I can make and like come back. It's like, why do we need clothes on clothes on clothes on clothes on clothes on clothes? That's just, I don't know. That's very off topic, but that was something that just came
No,
up just now.
no, I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true. And I think me and Katie and I were talking just, and this kind of relates, but we were just talking about merch, like for Inclusive AF. And then we were
Mhm.
like, okay, we can't do those. Like, we're not going to do round neck t-shirts. Like, we don't fit those. And then we're talking about, oh, well, this material or this stylish shirt. And then we're like,
We're like, this is so
hey,
hard.
this is really only going to fit Jackie and Katie and people that are shaped like us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just Goolie,
half
to
the
be
world.
fully transparent, like we
Yeah.
both have boobs. So
Big
a
boobs.
scoop neck is not as great as a V-neck.
It's
A
not.
V-neck is where
Yeah.
it's at for girls with
Yeah.
big boobs, you know? So
Yeah.
that's
But
what we
then
were
you have
talking
to
about.
say, oh my gosh, it was just like when I found out, like, how come I couldn't? And it's one of these things, just as a Black woman and what's available in Texas, like when you're figuring out makeup and you don't have the money or you don't have the time to like sit with a professional person and then being like,
Yeah.
how come this isn't working for me? And then it'd be like, oh, it wasn't made for me. I mean, I was
Yeah.
in my 20s when I figured it out. So it's like these clothes, I know now, I was like, they never made the round neck t-shirt for me ever. I was never
Yeah.
supposed to wear that,
Yeah. So at the
you
end of the
know?
day, it's like, we gotta know who these people are. We gotta know like the American. You know what I mean? We gotta know everyone and all the bodies, all the colors, all the, because it's that's what makes it more fun. That's what I like about design. So the older I'm getting and the more further I'm getting into this, where this career is going, I can see it's like the fun parts are the work, like the work that people need to be doing.
Mhm.
So I think like what naturally comes with the design, that's not what the fashion design world is anymore. It's more about like creating a garment to sell over and over again. But I think that's what needs to be changed. The thing that needs to be changed is that clothes are, you're creating something. It's like you're making a painting every time for someone.
Mm.
So to make one over and over and over again, I just think that we need to care about the quality of what we're making far more than what's happening these days. And that's why I love collecting vintage clothes so much, because I think that quality was in perspective a lot more back then. So a lot of my clothes are from like 90s back. And I don't have a lot of clothes from like the 2000s forward, but just because that's how I like to organize them, because the quality is bad. I don't know.
Mhm.
That's what I've noticed. Yeah.
No, you're spot on. Like that is my sisters.
Yeah.
I have 4 sisters and we joke around about the fact like you go and try and buy a t-shirt in a store and there's
Mhm.
not one t-shirt that's not like the material so thin that
Mhm.
you can see right through it. You have to like wear something under the t-shirt when you're like, well, I
Yeah.
don't want to wear something, especially in Arizona when it's 5,000 degrees out. Like I just want to wear one layer, not 65.
Yeah.
Goolie, this has been awesome. I love everything that you have shared. Tell us, as we are wrapping up, what is
Mhm.
one thing that you want everyone that's listening to know?
Okay. I would like everyone to know, first and foremost, I would like everyone to know, let me see. That's a very awesome, great, awesome question. Thank you so much for that. Okay. I was kidding. Okay.
I feel the love.
No, I'm just kidding. Something I would like everyone to know is just that in a way the worst thing has already happened to you. So today should just be a breeze. And that's how I've kind of done my entire life. And because if you think about it, that thing that happened that was so bad, the only way that you know that it happened is because you remember it, because it's a past event and it already happened. So the thing that you're anxious about, it's not there anymore, and it hasn't happened, and it might not happen again. So I don't know what's happening in the world right now, and I don't know a lot about politics or anything, but I think that everyone should just be happy and try to just stay as positive as possible. So I would like everyone to stay as positive as possible so we can make some change.
Yeah.
Let's make some
Awesome.
more change, Lara.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Goolie, how do people find you?
Okay, so everyone can find me on Instagram if y'all would like. My last name backwards. It's gonna be Zeravala. Because it's, I don't know, I think I'm kind of a twisted form of the Alvarez, so I like putting it backwards because it sounds like a name. It sounds like Zeravla. So
I like
put it
that.
as yeah. So y'all can find me there. I post some random stuff. I haven't posted in such a long time, but I guess now I have to because
Yeah, because
it's
we're
on here.
famous.
I know,
We're
'cause
gonna
there are,
all
like,
be
We
literally-
have
Nicole.
50 bazillion followers. So you
we
are
have
going to
literally 50 bazillion followers.
50
Yeah.
bazillion. So at any
Mhm.
moment, and you better start making some clothes because
I will.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
starting
on, my
first,
friend.
like, tech class like tomorrow, literally. So
that's
Right.
awesome.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Very cool. Jackie, what is your one thing from this episode?
I just got really emotional all of a sudden. I don't know why I got really emotional. I think it's just to talk to people. I think what I've known, it's like, for me, I've known Goolie for a really long time. And granted, he's friends with Hannah. And so we don't have really sit down conversations.
Yeah.
I've always respected the things that he did. And I've always trusted him, which he knows, like, I trust like 4 people. And it just is to take the time to get to know people that are in your life that you haven't taken the time to get to know.
Good time.
Don't take people for granted. Like, you might take people for granted as somebody you see a lot or they're there a lot, but take the time to find out the story because there's a lot of growth in that. So I would recommend that.
Awesome. Thank you. For me,
Yeah.
I think it's the watch out world. Goulie's coming. You know, from a Tejano perspective, I think most folks, when they hear Tejano, the only reference point they have is Selena. And so to have other cities to be thinking about, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I think that's for
Yeah.
most folks, that's what they think of when they hear Tejano. And so, you know, knowing that it's more than music, knowing that, you know, fashion and the experiences that you have informed your
Mhm.
fashion, and having voices that are not just the same voices over and over, how important that is to expand our minds and wear stuff that is amazing. So thank you so
Thank
much for taking the
you.
time to join us. Truly
Thank
appreciate
you.
Yes. Thank you.
Wow.
Um,
Y'all guys are the best.
it.
Anytime.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So for those of you who are listening, we have this on YouTube, but Jackie just informed me that we might want to let you know that we're also on Apple and Spotify and Google Podcasts.
I
So
know,
wherever
I
you
did
get
not
your
do my hair.
podcasts, yeah.
No one told me to
Really?
do my hair. I wear a hat.
But do go to YouTube so you can see Goulie's hair. That's
Yes,
what we
yeah,
need.
yeah.
fabulous.
Thank
Fabulous.
you.
His
Okay.
hair is going to be the guest the next time
The
Goolie comes
special
on.
guest, so just the hair.
Just his hair will be the
Awesome.
guest.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we will talk to you all during the next episode.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
y'all.